Wait. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Auburn School Department. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will start on my right for introductions.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Quinn Gormley, Ward 4.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Sue Doris, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier, Ward 3.
Jay Rich, at large.
Adam Platt, City Council Representative.
Connor Dufour, Student Representative.
Amanda Kuchar, Business Manager.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. And Calvin Vincent and Pam Albert have been excused for tonight. As you can see, I'm here. I will start tonight's meeting with the approval of our consent agendas, including the approval of tonight's agenda and the approval of the minutes from the September 26, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Quinn and Corin. All those in favor? Motion passes. We will now move to public participation. Is anyone here for public participation? Nope. Okay. Then we will move on. We will now go into the presentation of the Auburn School Department operating budget for the year 2025 and 2026, budget memorandum, and cost center number 1.
Thank you very much. We will get started with our presentation tonight. We have some slides for you. So where are we in the budget process? As we take a look, in November, we met with you and talked about potential budget projections for this year. We looked at class sizes and ratios and what items we were looking at in terms of increasing costs. And then in January, we met with the City Council for a preliminary budget discussion. And here we are tonight, March 5th, and we're rolling out the proposed budget. So tonight, we're going to look at our budget binders, and I'll give you an orientation to those. And then we will hear from our building principals as we share with you Cost Center 1. This is regular instruction and all of our schools. Just go back a little bit to this slide right here. So next week, we will be looking at Cost Center 2, and that will be special education with Director Shaw. And we will be reviewing Cost Center 3, which is a new cost center this year, career and technical education. And then Cost Center 5, student and staff support, and that will be curriculum and instruction. I do want to note that Cost Center 4, athletics and co-curricular, is being moved to March 19th. So we will hear from Todd Sampson that night. And then we'll also be doing Cost Center 6, system administration, Cost Center 7, school administration, Cost Center 8, transportation, Cost Center 9, facilities, and we'll also be talking about our capital improvement plan, and then Cost Center 10, which is debt service. And then March 26th will be adult education with Director Jen Tyner, and we will be reviewing revenue that night with you. And hopefully we won't need to cover other cost centers that night, and we'll be meeting as planned. And no snow days are in the forecast for us. As we look ahead into the month of April, we have a public hearing on the budget plan for April 2nd, and then April 7th will be our joint school committee city council budget workshop. And on May 7th, hopefully, will be the school committee approval of the budget, and then May 19th, the city council approval of the budget, and our budget validation referendum is scheduled for June 10th. Any questions so far? Okay, the budget process in general is transparent, goal-focused, inclusive, and clearly communicated. It's really important for us to make sure that everything that we do is posted on the website and that we're very transparent with all of our documents and all of the discussions that we're having. In a minute, I will review some of the budget message with you, and you'll hear from all the schools as part of this process, and that begins tonight with the building principals. We also will make sure to collect any questions that you have. Miss Amanda Kuchar will be writing everything down, and we'll be typing everything up, and as we have done in the past, we'll be posting all the Q's and A's on the website under the budget development area of the website. So I want to give you a quick orientation to your budget binder, which all the school committee members have right now in front of them. The budget binder begins with the budget calendar, which we just reviewed, and then the budget message. I will highlight a few things from that in just a minute. And then you have a section on revenues. This will come later in the budget process. And then we begin with Cost Center 1. So you'll see that there's a section on each school. And what you'll find in each section as we go through is you will have a copy of the PowerPoint slides. And tonight for the schools, you'll be hearing about the enrollment and the class sizes. You will be hearing about initiatives and any staffing changes. And then that will be followed by a printout of the budget for that cost center, as well as a list of staff in relationship to that cost center or that tab in your book. So currently, you should have complete sections up through the end of Cost Center 1. But we haven't put things in yet for Cost Center 2. So you have Cost Center 2, and it's all by tabs, all the way to the end, Cost Center 11. Any questions about how the budget binder is put together? All right, we've already talked about tonight being the individual schools and things that you're going to hear tonight and what's in the binder. And before I go into the big numbers, I just wanted to mention the budget message, which I sent out to all of you this morning. The budget message provides a high-level budget overview and articulates connections to the goals and objectives that the school committee has set out. And this is something that began with Dr. Brown, and we are continuing this practice. The budget message summarizes the key cost center changes, and it's something that you will probably want to refer to throughout this budget process. I want to note several things. First, as I just said, the budget has been developed to support the school committee's goals. And second, the Auburn School Department continues to work with city leadership to support municipal management goals. This year, this includes developing a baseline budget without expanding services or programs. I also want to point out that we were very fortunate this year to receive an increase in state subsidy, and this is allowing us to maintain current staffing levels. And we'll be presenting more information about our revenue later in the budget process. So now for the big numbers, our proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 is $64,718,893. And in terms of an increase over last year's budget, this is a total budget increase of 4.2%. The mill rate for education is $9.06, and based on current assessed value, the increase on a $150,000 home will be $46.39. Keeping in mind, this is the mill rate for education, not for the entire city. The cost drivers in this budget, we have two major cost drivers right now. One is health insurance, and the other is special education. So we're looking at an increase in health insurance at about $1.1 million. This is we're estimating a 15% increase in our rates right now, and this could be higher depending on the Maine Benefits Trust Pool rating. This is a question mark for us, and we will have those numbers in April. We also have more employees opting into the district's health insurance plan, so that's another reason for the increase. And then special education is going to be up 1.3 million, and this is driven by increased student needs and tuition for out-of-district placements. And we'll hear more about that next week from Director Shaw. And now it's time to get into Cost Center 1 and hear from our principals. So first up, we have Michelle Gagne, principal at East Auburn.
Hello. It's always nice to be here with all of you, and I'm happy to be kicking off Cost Center 1 for you this evening and tell you a little bit about what we are anticipating at East Auburn School. When we consider and talk about enrollment, we are looking at our numbers from October 1st. So this current school year that we're in right now, October 1st, we had an enrollment of 155 students. We have a little bit of a change that we're anticipating for next year due to the difference between our number of our outgoing sixth graders and our incoming kindergartners. So we are projecting a total enrollment right now for next year of 151 students. What that looks like by grade level is we are expecting 16 kindergarten students and 1 teacher, so a classroom ratio of 1 to 16. We are expecting 16 first graders, again with 1 teacher and an average class size of 1 or a ratio of 1 to 16. In second grade, 17 students with 1 teacher and a ratio of 1 to 17. Third grade is where we are seeing our bubble that keeps going up through the grade levels. We have 32 third graders, and we'll have 2 teachers in third grade with a class ratio size of 1 to 16. In fourth grade, 24, so 1 to 24. Fifth grade, 23, 1 to 23. And sixth grade, 20 students, 1 to 20. We do have a lot of construction and new housing coming in our area, so we're always keeping that in mind, and I'm working closely with the other principals in the area to make sure that our class size stays appropriate for the grade span. So we're projecting a total of 151 students with 8 teachers, and our average class size would be 1 to 19. We are not expecting any staff changes next year, and our initiatives that we'll continue to keep in the forefront of all of our priorities are continued effective Tier 1 curriculum using my view, my perspectives, and illustrative math. We're going to have continued professional development to support strong cross-curricular instruction, and of course, continued work in implementing tiered restorative behavioral response interventions. And those continue to be our priorities. Any questions for East Auburn?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the class sizes. What's like the magic number that we have that where it's too much or that we need to have another teacher?
In my experience, we really are looking for class sizes of ideally kindergarten, first and second grade. We're looking for as small class sizes as no more than 20. Okay. Once you get up into the higher grade levels, we have a little more flexibility to add students into that, and the research would show that that is more manageable as the kids get older. I know that we have class sizes that are much larger than this in other buildings across the district. Sometimes the actual physical space and the sizes of our rooms cause us to make some decisions about what an appropriate class size is. So it's very hard to say that there's a magic number and make that applicable across all school buildings. For example, our 5th and 6th graders are in the cottages, and those cottages are quite a bit smaller. So Megan Wood and Stephanie Maris at those 2 schools have been very gracious in helping me to sometimes make some decisions with new students to make sure that students are in classrooms where they're comfortable and they receive their best learning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes?
Going back to class sizes, how, for ed techs, when do you designate that a teacher is going to need some extra help? Because, I mean, 24 kids, yes, it's a higher grade, but it's still 24 kids and one
Ed-
teacher.
Ed techs are assigned to students that have specially designed instruction. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have anything to do with class size. It's more to support special ed, and they actually are paid for through special ed. So they're specifically designed to aid students that have IEPs. And oftentimes, they're providing either pull-out services or they're doing push-in to support students, but that isn't something connected to the actual class size.
Anyone else? Quinn?
I don't necessarily need an explanation right now, but I'd be curious to hear more about the restorative behavioral response interventions you're implementing.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Quinn, I didn't hear what you said.
I would love to learn more about the restorative behavioral response intervention that is discussed here.
Absolutely. We can certainly prepare something for a later date.
Okay, and, oh, go ahead, Adam.
Thanks. I had two questions on some of the budget items. I don't know if you were going into that, or if that's on us to dive into on our own, these pages.
You can ask questions about the budget items.
Okay. It looks like for the most part, everything's pretty flat or small increases. It looks like there were two intentional changes, and I was just curious if you could add some detail to that. It looks like you've decreased the request on consumable instructional supplies by $2,000, and then you've increased the request by $1,600 for field trip transportation. I was just curious if you could explain what those costs are for.
Sure. Our field trips now, we are responsible at the building level to pay the bus drivers. We're actually paying for the bus and the bus drivers. Even though we use our Auburn buses, we now have to budget for it within our buildings. So in post-COVID, of course, during COVID, we had eliminated field trips more or less altogether. So principals have had to get back into the habit of making sure that we've allotted for those enrichment activities within our budget. So that is why we've taken all the field trips that we normally have, and we've just allocated funds to cover what we've normally done, but within our budget now. And then the decrease in instructional supplies for us, I just was trying to be thoughtful about either being at a zero increase or, very minimal increase. And I really feel like we've done an excellent job in the last few years of taking care of some larger scope budget issues or budget demands at East Auburn. And because we've done it thoughtfully, I think we're well prepared to work within the budget that I presented this year and be able to still provide excellent education with those numbers in mind. Yeah.
I appreciate your diligence in looking at the budget and, making sure that it's within the budget that we have. But I guess my question is, and I'm probably going to ask everybody this, but is there something that you need from us that is like right up there that we would be able to offer you that would help?
I think if, I think about what teachers need, again, we've done some thoughtful work. East Auburn, I think there were some bigger ticket items that we've been able to take care of in the building. I have to say I'm very proud of. I think it looks great. I think it's functioning really well for kids right now. Space is the biggest issue at East Auburn, and I know that we're making some big decisions in the future about buildings and whatnot, but really space is tricky for us. So when we're putting out requests for how we can respond to our kids' needs in the building, and it has something to do with space, that can be very tricky. And so personally, that comes to the forefront of my mind, but also teachers really benefit from professional development opportunities, and I think the school department is diligent in providing those. So I would say continued professional development for staff, and in as much as Quinn mentioned, we're doing a lot of work with restorative behavioral practices and just responding to the social and emotional needs of students. And so there's a lot of important work to be done there as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else? Nope. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Mrs. Bodette from Fairview to follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak a little bit about Fairview. You will see that our October 1st enrollment count was 490 students, and we are projecting a pretty stable enrollment for next year at 486. We have 23 classroom teachers pre-K to 6, 3 teachers in each grade with 4 sessions of pre-K with 2 teachers. And the class size ranges, it's an average of 1 to 20, with a low of 14 in pre-K and a high of 22 in 6th grade. In addition, we have a district self-contained special education program, which is our Junior Achieve program. We currently have approximately 37 students in that program, and we are looking to probably have at least 37 students, and with the amount of CDS referrals coming in, that may increase. We currently have 5 teachers in that program, so the average size would be 1 to 8. We have no staff changes, and our initiatives would be to continue our continued implementation of the illustrative math, My View, and My Perspective programs. Continued PD opportunities for staff in the areas of literacy and math, continued focus on Tier 1 classroom interventions, and then our continued implementation of PBIS.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I guess my question will be to you as well. Other than what's here, is there something that you feel that you need at Fairview that we can help with?
I think what I would focus on is math, and we have the benefit of having literacy coaches, which is a really, it's a really important work that they do with teachers, but they also dig in with students that are struggling and help us to untangle some of those students. But we do share one math coach with 6 elementary schools, and that is, so she does her best and she's wonderful, but we don't have as much opportunity to do the work that we would need to do with math.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else? Adam?
Another budget question. I was just curious if you could explain the inclusion of the general supplies line item. It looks like you now have to account for that in your budget, $17,650, and it wasn't there. I'm guessing it was somewhere else last year.
Yeah, it was somewhere else, but it's and that basically is all the classroom supplies, office supplies, and I think my specialists are now included in some of that, so they don't have their own line item. But it has gone up somewhat, but not. I tried to be mindful of that, but yeah, it just was in a different place.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Mrs. Bodette.
It is my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Maris, principal of Park Avenue School.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Just like my colleagues, I'm happy to be here this evening to share with you about the proposed budget for the 25-26 school year for Park Avenue Elementary School. Our enrollment on October 1st in 2024 was at 390. We ended the 23-24 school year in June with an enrollment of 388. So we had a pretty even balance of students moving in and out from last spring to this fall. As of today, our enrollment is 416 students, so we have increased over the course of the year, again, with a higher mobility rate of students coming in and out. So our projected enrollment for the 25-26 school year reflects the exiting of a larger sixth grade class. We have 58 sixth graders right now leaving, so with a projected enrollment of our incoming kindergarten at 45 best guess, and a full pre-K, which I'm very excited to maintain 2 full pre-K classes this year with 32 kids. So our projected enrollment for next fall will be 398 students. Wait, actually, sorry, can I talk more on that one?
Yes.
Our class sizes range from the smallest class being in kindergarten right now at 1 to 15, and our largest would be in 6th grade at 1 to 25. Maintaining at least 2 teachers per grade level, and then bubbles with higher, with 3 teachers ratio in K1, 4, and 5, where we have a larger bubble of student populations, and an average class size of 1 to 21. Thank you. Since Park Avenue houses the multi-language learner program currently for the Auburn School Department, our total number of identified students for right now is at 176. We have 21 students with monitor status. The current caseload is 171 students in K through 6, with projected staffing for next year of 4 teachers and an average caseload of 43 students. Staffing changes were reflected in what I showed for my class to teacher ratios. Would be the addition of 2 teaching positions through Title II funding in order to reduce class sizes for next year's 4th and 5th grade, as that's a large bubble with about 20 kids per class in 3 different classes. So we would use those 2 class size reduction positions to support there. And then we would be shifting the currently vacant 5th MLL teacher position over to Sherwood Heights as we build the MLL program at a second location in the district. And Mr. Davis will share current MLL numbers or projected MLL numbers for Sherwood when he shares his slides as well. And like my other colleagues, we'll be continuing initiatives with current curriculum programs for illustrative math, for Savis, bringing on new science curriculum next year. We will continue our work with PBIS and also continuing PD at Park Avenue for our MLL students that we did work with this year with Andrea Honigsfeld work and support from our literacy coaches.
Does anyone have any questions? Pat?
Stephanie, are the numbers 398, does that include the MLL, or are those 2 separate numbers?
That's including MLL students.
Okay, all right.
Good question. I'd really be crying if.
I know, but it's like I'm kind of freaking out looking at
about
this.
a third of our population are MLL students, so those are specifically the students who are identified. And then the 21 students who are on monitor status are students that are exiting and are just kind of on that check-in piece to make sure they're still having their needs met in the classroom.
Is there a lot of movement in and out of Park Avenue with other districts during the
We share
MLLs?
I would say yes for MLL, because a lot of families are living at first or placed in temporary housing. That has slowed with new administration, not stopped. The changes of enrollment we're seeing now are coming from other districts, especially as winter months are changing with lease agreements. We're seeing a lot of shifts between Lewiston and Auburn in particular.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. I am noticing that a lot of these MLL teachers have very high caseloads, 43 students. Does this include all of the students that they are servicing and like a case management model?
Yeah.
Okay, so not all 43 would be in the classroom.
Absolutely not. We use we use the push in and pull out model with our MLL teachers. Our MLL teachers do a lot of co-teaching in classrooms, like For example, in our 6th grade, when they have their homerooms, but then they look at student needs for instructional blocks, and they're not grouping students just like tracking, but they try to make 2 balanced instructional blocks, so then we can use our MLL staff to be in the classroom co-teaching at the same time, so the teacher can deliver tier 1 and the MLL teacher is right there to back that up in the classroom. Instead of having to pull kids out, we're trying to maximize tier 1 instruction for all of our students instead of having MLL kids miss out on that tier 1 piece.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? I just have one question. When you say that there are 4 teachers for the staff, but we're transferring an MLL teacher to Sherwood Heights, does that mean there'll be 3, or is that?
No, thank you for asking for the clarification. The 4 teachers are the projected for next year.
Okay.
This year, that 5th position was moved into a classroom teacher position to reduce the numbers in 4th grade, as we had 66 4th graders and 2 classroom teachers.
Okay. So again, what does Park Ave need from us?
I would echo what Mrs. Bodette shared about needing support for math. It's a need that's at Park Avenue. If you remember from when we did our State of the Schools, all of the students at Park Avenue, regardless of their language level, are tested in math for standardized testing. And it is our greatest opportunity for growth and achievement is to look at our math scores. And we do not have math interventionists. We have a phenomenal librarian, Crystal Hafner, I'll give her a shout out right now, who uses she teaches library classes 3 days a week and has 2 full days of math interventions she provides on the other 2 days to provide math interventions for students. But that's what we're limited to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
No one else?
All right, then it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Davis, the principal of Walton School. Sherwood Heights, just kidding.
Former principal at Walton. Thank you all for the opportunity to share some enrollment numbers as it pertains to the budget process for this coming year. You will note that our 10-1 enrollment at Sherwood was 302, and we are projecting an increase for next year of approximately 312, and that is with the anticipation of increased MLL students at Sherwood Heights. And just a side note, the MLL program began its roots in Auburn way back in the day, so we're excited to kind of refurbish and welcome them all back to Sherwood Heights. Our grade level class sizes, you can see, look pretty consistent, around 18, 19 per grade. We're fortunate that our enrollment is pretty stable, with allowing us to keep 2 teachers per grade level, K through 6. We do have 1 pre-K teacher who does have a morning and an afternoon session, and those are pretty full. And we also are fortunate to house the district's behavior program, the STARS. We have 3 rooms of the STARS students, and there's a teacher and 3 ed techs in each room, with approximately 6 students in each room. So that would be our class sizes for next year. And moving on to the next slide, this is the MLL slide that Mrs. Maris was talking about. We currently have 10 MLL students at Sherwood Heights, and we welcome a staff member from Park Avenue who comes over each week to teach those students. So we're very fortunate. And as you can see here, we are anticipating having a teacher join us, or having an MLL teacher added to our staff. So therefore, we can increase the caseload to approximately 20, give or take, depending on what the needs are for the district. And obviously, the only staffing change we would have would be the addition of an MLL teacher position. And our initiatives are like my colleagues, with our continued work around the implementation of the My View and My Perspectives, and illustrative math curriculums, the continued PD in the areas of literacy and math, and the district does a nice job with that. Literacy definitely has been a great focus this year, and we look forward to kind of expanding that into math as well. But also our continued work with our PBIS initiatives as well at Sherwood Heights. So there it is in a snapshot.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Pat?
Did I hear correctly that the MLL transfer teacher is a position that was not filled this year? Did I hear that correctly?
So that is a position, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but it was a position that was moved into support fourth grade at Park Avenue, and it will become a vacant position at our school where we will hire for.
So this is not an increase to the budget, that's what I'm getting.
It's a lateral.
It's
No.
not. Nope, the position's already in the budget, just being transferred to us.
So this teacher went to fourth, she did mention that too,
Yeah.
I think I remember.
Yeah, welcome. ahead.
Adam?
I had a question about number of students. I brought the budget book from last year, and I was looking at the projected enrollment for this year. And last year, we'd projected that it would be 284, and
Yep.
it's 302. And I was looking at the classes. It looks like grades 1, 2, and 3, there were 20%, higher than what we thought.
Yep.
Can you talk about that was from? Was that just luck of the draw? Was that MLL students? Was that a new housing development? What kind of
Actually, it was a mix of MLL students and just the move-ins, that was unanticipated. So we did start a little higher than we anticipated for sure. Yep, exactly. I'm not aware of any housing impacts, as far as developments that have opened or anything that have impacted, but it's definitely the MLL students. So there were 10 this year. That was something we worked really hard at this year. And actually, our increase may have also been a little higher because we work closely with Walton School. When they have bubbles in certain grades, like fourth grade, then we take them because we have room. So that was also that also was increased. Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else? I have a question. So the 10 students, you have 10 students in MLL now. You're
Yep.
expected to have 20 next year. That's the correlate.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you taking them from Park Ave, or are they kids that live in the neighborhood
Good
of
question.
Sherwood Heights?
So what we're anticipating is those students that are at Park Avenue would be staying where they're at. And as the district is receiving new registrants, because we have a fair number in New Auburn, then we would have them come to us instead of going, busing them to Park Avenue.
Okay.
And I think that's an estimated number.
Okay. Also, so again, for you,
Yeah.
what do you feel that Sherwood Heights needs from us?
Something, I would say is continued from the school committee is the continued support of the work around professional development, especially in the area of social emotional learning, as we're seeing a lot of increased needs with students as they're coming to our schools or moving in. And so our teachers work really hard at that. We have access to a BCBA and our school counselors and social workers that we have from outside agencies that help, but just continued support for professional development around supporting our teachers with that.
And in supporting your teachers, you'll support your students
Exactly.
in a better way.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it is my pleasure to introduce the principal of Walton School, Amy Heimrow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for having us here tonight. And I am grateful to have the opportunity to present a little bit of information about Walton School and the projected enrollments and such for this coming school year. So when the school year started, October 1st, our enrollment was at 147. Our projected enrollment is about 144 for next year, so pretty status quo. We do have some mobility throughout our year. We've seen some ins and outs, but everything kind of works out in the end and it all kind of washes. So our projected numbers are 144 to start the year. When you look at our class sizes, smallest class size right now projected is about 15 for kindergarten. Our highest class size projected is our 5th grade for next year at 23. And And we do have a bubble in 6th grade, which requires us to have 2 teachers at that grade level, so that those class sizes can be 16 and 17, which averages out on the whole to have 8 teachers with a class size on average of 18 students. We anticipate no staffing changes for next year, but our initiatives that we're proposing are our continued implementation of our My View and My Perspectives literacy for our K through 5 and then our 6th grade students, illustrative math, which we use for all K through 6 students, and with a particular focus for us on the Tier 1 classroom interventions. We would hope to do some things around increased family engagement. That's a big initiative of mine for our building and for our staff and our families. Ongoing professional development for our staff in the areas of both math and literacy, and then the continued work that we've been doing with the PBIS to support school-wide behaviors.
Does anyone have any questions? I guess I would ask as well, what specifically could we do to help you?
Yeah, I think I am going to echo what a few of my colleagues have said in a couple of areas. I think when I look at our student successes currently, math is an area that we also struggle with for a couple of reasons. You know, the lack of a math support team. We have one coach in the district. Again, as Celeste said, she is amazing and fabulous, and we love her dearly, but she is one person to support 6 elementary schools. So that can be a challenge. Additionally, we don't have an interventionist in the building to give outside of the classroom supports to some of those students who are just continually seeming to struggle in the classroom. So that is one area in particular with math. And then, as Mike also shared, that SEL and social emotional learning, particularly in my building, we've seen a need for some of that work. And so I would just ask for continued support around those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much.
And it's my pleasure to introduce Megan Wood of Washburn.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here. And similarly to my colleagues, we'll jump in with 10-1 enrollment numbers. So October 1st, we had an enrollment at Washburn of 223 students. Our projected for next year is very similar at 225. There is a lot of mobility within that number. However, it kind of evens out to remain the same for next year. When we look through our classroom teachers, we have a mix of 1 classroom or 2 classrooms per grade level. We have 2 teachers at kindergarten with a projected, based on pre-K enrollments, of a class size of 1 to 12, and span all the way up to, right now, our largest class size in grade 2, having 1 second grade coming out to a ratio of 1 to 24. So we continue to check and adjust, as, like I said, we do have a high mobility rate, to look at how we can best meet learner needs to reduce those class sizes. And that kind of evens out to a average class size of 1 to 17 for us at Washburn. In terms of staffing changes, we anticipate none at this time. And we continue to work very hard in our initiatives, including My View and My Perspective implementation, as well as illustrative math. We are having a heavy focus this year and will continue that work next year with responsive classroom practices and a mesh of PBIS to build classroom community and student ownership of learning, along with an emphasis on tiered behavior interventions and very clear school-wide expectations. And lastly, we will continue with our PD for best math and literacy practices.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? So again, what can we do for you?
Yeah, so not to sound like a broken record, but as my colleagues have stated, Lisa Coburn is fabulous, and she is one person, and I think, you know, investing in our people and helping further the growth of our educators in the area of math would be a huge push in providing student increase in achievement for, in particular, math. Okay. I would also say, similarly to Mike and Amy, social emotional learning and an emphasis on that. We continue to see increased needs for social work, counseling, those pieces for students to be successful and access their learning while they're at school.
Okay. So when you talk about social emotional learning and needing support for that,
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, social workers, counselors, things like that. That's what you mean when you want support for that? Just to clarify.
Yeah, I think at this time, yeah, I think at this time I hadn't really thought that through, but people and the support with people supporting students is kind of where the biggest bang for our buck has been in supporting and meeting student needs.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah.
just so I get a better idea what it is you're saying, because I can see why, with the way the world is, that you know, social emotional learning is a huge thing, but just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what you wanted from us. So thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Pat?
I'm just projecting, and maybe I shouldn't even be talking about this now, but putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Each of you is asking, I'm hearing the same thing over and over for a math coach and social emotional support. Would it be, I mean, because we cannot increase the budget considerably this year, you know, what we're hearing from City Council, how realistic it would be for you all to share these particular positions? For example, if we added a math coach, then you'd have 2 between the 6 schools. What's the feasibility of doing that with the social emotional? I don't know if that would work with somebody that gets embedded in the school and gets close to the kids, but if they're always hopping schools, how that would work. So that's what's going on in my head right now. I don't want, you know, you really don't need to answer, but that's where I'm going with this.
All right.
I think it's important, as part of the budget process, to kind of throw things out there in a way. And I want to say that I do thoroughly appreciate the work that has gone into what you are presenting tonight. And I don't mean to throw a curveball by asking these questions, but I know for me, and I think for everybody here, it's important to know how we can support you and support the students and support the staffs in the best way that we can. I'm not saying that I can magic wand everything. I'd love to give you guys everything, but it's good to know, and hearing the same thing over and over reinforces that this might be an issue that we need to look at. So I want to thank you for being honest and telling us exactly what you do need and all the work you've done. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for asking. It means a lot. Any other questions? All right, so at this time, I welcome Mr. Ben Wilson with AMS.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So we're looking at our numbers from this past October. We had somewhere around 497 students. The really large 6th grade class is joining us next year, so our numbers are going to go up to 517, which is very exciting. So our ratio is roughly 1 teacher for 21 kids. If you want to go to the next slide. So there's the breakdown. So middle school being the funky beast that it is, we have, of course, different grade levels, different content areas, and the students finally start getting to rotate through the classrooms. So we have certain size classes for literacy and for math, a little bit different for social studies and science. If you want to rotate through. So we also have a very large MLL population. So currently we have 47 students, grades 7 and 8. We have 12 students in monitor status. So currently our caseload is one teacher for 35 MLL students. Right now we have one teacher and 2 ed techs supporting those students in classes. If you want to move forward. So we are eliminating a Spanish position that we have not had filled for a while. And we also are eliminating a guidance counselor position that we've not had filled for a while. And we've managed to make up the difference through different systems we put in place at the middle school. So continued implementation of my perspectives, illustrated math, and got to give a big shout out to the superintendent in the business office. At the very end of the ESSER funds, we were able to supply the middle school with not just curriculum materials for social studies and science, but materials as well, which is why there was a drop in the budget for the middle school this year. The TCI social studies and TCI science has been a phenomenal addition. We really hope to see our science scores go up this year because of a unified program we haven't had since, I think, 2002. So it's very exciting. Full implementation of Read Math 180 curriculum. Again, thank you, Dr. Doris, and thank the business office. We put together a curriculum for our special ed students, which is very exciting. It's very data forward, and we're seeing a lot of progress with that. Increased proficiencies with our MLL students, offering boost groups, individualized plans, small group instruction, and push into social studies and science. We continue to work with our community around tardies and absences, and continue collaboration with community partners, including Bates and the National Guard. The National Guard, they had a program back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they come to schools and they work with students on aspirations. I reached out to them this past year, and they're putting together a program for us on making positive life choices. And currently we have, we'll put through probably 45 7th graders to that program this year, and it's been a lot of fun for us. And
does anyone have any questions? Of course I will.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, when you say MLL, teaching staff, 1 teacher and 2 ed techs, is this similar to what they do in elementary school, like at Park Ave, that these kids come in and out, or are these, students always with this?
No, we have literacy. We have more literacy classes, some math classes, but mostly the students get pushed out to be with their peers for social science. We're doing the same work with Ms. Huggesfeld as well, as far as supporting teachers with working with ML students in their classrooms.
Okay. I want to commend you, too, for reaching out to the National Guard. I think there's just so many avenues that we can kind of reach from in our community, and I think it's important. I think this is great.
Yeah, we just started work with Reach Free USA this past week. We have a couple orchards going in the middle school. They're going to come help us with those this coming spring. So
that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love that we use our community resources to help our schools. So I commend you on that. I'm going to ask you as well, is there something that you feel, we kind of got the same impression from the elementary schools, but what is it that the middle school would need from us?
Well, it's something that you probably already know. Scott's doing a phenomenal job with this, but when ROTC closed a couple of years ago, we had the behavior program move into the middle school, and the middle school doesn't have a whole lot of room, and the district has done a phenomenal job supplying us with a facility to use, for programming for these students, and it seems to be taking a long time. Okay. It'd be great to have that completed. It's nothing that I think tangibly it's being done. It just takes time. But
okay.
Yeah.
And what is the holdup?
I just think it's been, between the people who've managed it outside the district. We've had a lot of improvements since we've taken it over, but it's been a process. So. Okay. I think we're waiting for some inspections and maybe a railing to be installed. So
you're talking about the physical space.
Correct.
For these students. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We are very fortunate to have a math and literacy coach, a combined position. One person does both jobs at the middle school. We're very fortunate to have that. So.
Awesome. I know that we had talked about the 6th grade maybe going to the middle school. Is that something that we are looking into for this year, or is that something that we talked about in the future?
That's something that we're talking about for the future.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? No? Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thank
Melissa
you.
McLeod with Franklin is up next.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me here to talk about Franklin. Our projected enrollment, it's always the same. It's based on our current staffing level and our policy of a 15 student per class limit. So that is unchanged looking forward into the next school year. Who's doing the driving? Oh, here we are. So these are presently our enrollment levels. The top one being from the fall, and then currently, as you can see, we have 83 students enrolled, but with 5 additional students kind of in the process of enrolling, which takes us to 88 students, which is 2 shy of capacity. So that is why I can confidently say that our projected enrollment is pretty accurate. This is my 5th year in this position, and we have not gone a year where we haven't come within 5 students of our capacity. And I don't see that changing in the future. Also, as far as our current enrollments, we have a total of 14 students that are Lewiston tuition students that pay tuition to the district for their spots at Franklin. That continues to be a pretty regular and a pretty stable number between, the 15 to 20 range each year. We do not have any projected staffing changes for the coming year, and our initiatives and focus moving forward are to continue to strengthen the staff in instructional supports and in trauma-informed educational practices, as well as increase support for students in their post-secondary goals, whether that be college, vocational training. We do that through our current work-study programs, through our partnerships with vocational rehab, our partnerships with Bates, and other community partners. And then currently, we are piloting a different kind of programming to help some of our credit-deficient students make up some of those credits in the most efficient way possible. So I have a couple of teachers that are running an interdisciplinary credit recovery program during the school day, but what it does is it offers the opportunity for us to have multiple students who may be deficient in credits in many different content areas, all still being able to work collaboratively with a teacher mentor to meet those credit needs without trying to schedule 20 English classes, or that sort of thing, which we honestly just don't have the staffing capacity for. So those are some, again, continuations of the work that we've been doing, as well as some new things that we're always trying out. So that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? So again, is there something that Franklin, would need from us?
Given, unlimited options, it's an easy answer. Student mental health support. We have 90 of probably the most vulnerable students in the district. We run without guidance. We are our guidance department, and we have 3 contracted social workers that can provide services to 15 students. So there's a lot of gaps there. So
Okay.
that's an easy one.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you.
Last
Thank
but
you.
not least, Ms. Val Ackley from EO.
Good evening. Nice to see everybody again. I'm here to speak with you about Edward Little enrollments, some student-teacher ratios and class loads, and as well as our initiatives. So as you can see, over time, we've had a steady increase in enrollment, And since the closing of the old building, and now that we're 2 years in the new building, you can see a net gain of 100 students over time. And we're projected to be right around 1,027 students next year and climbing because we continue to have new enrollments each day.
Right.
On the next slide, this has quite a bit of data for you to take a look at, and I'm going to give you an overview and then I'll highlight some things. So the first chart to the left is going to have each of our departments, the number of teachers that we have, and then I've broken down the data in two different ways. So the first way is a traditional class size average by department. So you can see that our main academic departments run anywhere from the mid-14s to about 20.3 with our health and phys ed classes. Then we have some specialized programs, JMG, MLL, special ed, which has our self-contained classrooms, Arches, which is a specialized program, as well as functional life skills, and those ratios are much lower. From there, we have average student load, and I felt this was a new set of data to show you. That was very important to show you what teachers have for students overall over a 2-day period. So we have a rotating 4-period schedule. So teachers will have 6 classes over a 2-day period. And so you can see in English, teachers would have an average student load of 83 students in those 6 classes. And you can see in social studies, there's an average of 108 students per teacher. Fine arts, 92. Aspirations, 92, so that's how you would read that third column. With that, teachers also have a daily homeroom where they meet with students every morning for the first 10 minutes of the day, and that average class size is 13 students on top of their average class load. And most teachers also have a learning lab duty, and that average is about 19.4 students. Teachers that do not have a learning lab duty support the building in being a hall monitor, where they support students during the class period for any number of reasons. So that would be their additional and lunch duty as well. Our total staff, we have 1 building administrator, 3 assistant principals, a guidance director who is also K-12, and 1 athletic director, 72 teachers, 7 secretaries, and 15 ed techs. From there, we're going to skip that slide right there.
Yeah, we'll skip that one. Okay.
And then we're going to move to MLL data. In terms of our total number of identified MLL students, we have 97. We have 11 on monitor status and 86 for the current MLL caseload over 3 teachers, and we do have an ed tech that supports our MLL student and teachers. Our average caseload is 29 students with a range of 26 to 32 students per teacher. In terms of staffing, JMG is our Jobs for Maine Graduates program, and we are seeing a $4,000 increase in terms of what we financially put into that program. We are also seeing a small increase of $6,000 for our suspension diversion program, which is housed at the Y, and we share that with AMS, but we are seeing a decrease of $11,000 in terms of our contracted services for substance misuse counselor. Again, that's shared between AMS and Edward Little. We are looking at an addition of an MLL team leader teacher at the high school, which is going to be a position that's reclassified from our special ed area that we had an opening as for a team leader teacher in special ed. So we're repurposing that to provide for MLL due to the number of students we're seeing at the high school and needing some support not only for teachers and students, but also for our access testing and monitoring students that are going out into the mainstream. All of our MLL students will have their electives outside of the MLL program. Some will be with MLL teachers, and then we're also looking at supporting them pushing out into math specifically, where we have a co-teaching program, as well as science. In terms of our initiatives, we do have our NEASC accreditation process starting. Our staff will be unpacking the first of 5 standards on Monday at our staff meeting in preparation for our collaborative conference that is next November. During that collaborative conference, we will be given a set of goals for 2 years to look at through the 25-26 and 26-27 school years. And then we will have our decennial visit in November of 2027, which will determine our accreditation status. So this is a new process for us. And so our staff is going through the process this spring to collect evidence and to write our summary report in preparation for the collaborative visit. And then we'll have a team of educators come in and work with us to do the goal setting next fall. Continuing with our initiatives, continuing to improve communication with our stakeholders in order to improve student attendance and achievement. This has been a key piece in improving our graduation rates. We want to continue to improve that. And then obviously, as we talked about at the State of the Schools, the focus on placement and supports for MLL and special ed.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Pat?
I have 2 concerns. The first one is the NEASC. Is there a budget for that? There always was. I don't know what the cost is going to be. Is it in the budget, or does it all come together the last year?
There's an ongoing dues that we pay yearly for it, and then as we get to that decennial visit, that's when you see the major increase that comes in for the costs that are all associated with that.
Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
Well, it's about, our dues for it are about $5,000 a year. Then when the decennial visit comes, it's about 20?
That's not until FY '28, if I'm reading that right. So we have 2 years before we'd be budgeting the larger amount.
Okay. And my other concern, it's really a concern, is the the student load for social studies. Are you in need of a social studies teacher somewhere? It looks like it's really off from the other departments.
We have dropped, and Scott can probably speak to this more in terms of the past when that teacher was removed in terms of the 4 core. If you look at English, we have 10.5, science 11, math 10, social studies is at 9. So if you're looking at the 4 core areas, they do have 1 teacher less than the other 3 core areas.
Okay, I'm just concerned with the almost 109 students versus an English average of 83 students.
My concern, honestly, right now is in health and phys ed. If you see that, that's 117 students per teacher. Our phys ed numbers, because freshman and sophomore PE are required for our diploma, and specifically 1 PE class for our 20 credit, both for our 24. And then for health, we have 1 health teacher, and Craig Gibson teaches all of our freshmen and any students that transfer in that haven't had health. His numbers this year and last year were extremely high, just under 30 per class. So that honestly would be more of my concern if we were to add a teacher in health and PE right now, and then that would alleviate and support the health.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Quinn?
Can someone just tell me what aspirations is?
So aspirations, we have 1 teacher in the aspiration department that teaches all of the culinary classes, and it's a precursor to the LRTC programs that we offer, which is 1 at Edward Little and then the Green Ladle program at Lewiston. So we offer Intro to Culinary 1, 2, and 3. And so we have 1 teacher dedicated to that. We have another teacher that's dedicated to the business side of the aspirations department. So he teaches accounting, marketing. He has multiple dual enrollment classes with Thomas College in both of those areas in terms of management principles and accounting principles. And he also runs our productivity software program, which is computer science-based coursework for foundational. So that's really the Google Suite, and as well as comparing and contrasting that to Excel and so on. Finally, Sarah Duchette teaches a multitude of different classes and aspirations, from child development to a body and mind class, which supports students that struggle with a traditional physical education class, and then she'll rotate different classes in that are career-based.
Anyone else? I have a couple. Arches, what is Arches and FLS? What are those programs?
So those are specialized programs in special education, so
Okay.
functional life skills. Right now, we have 8 students, soon to be 9. Those are students that may be nonverbal. We call it our Achieve program. We have it at Fairview, we have it at the middle school, and then we continue that at the high school. So a lot of one-on-one, two-on-one support in that particular room, and Laura and Rod will speak more to that in terms of when they do the special ed budget. And Arches is formerly our ETC that we house at the high school now.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, you said you have a guidance director, but do you have guidance counselors as well?
We do. So we have 5 counselors in our guidance department. Mary Beth Galway is one of them. She also serves as the K-12 guidance director. She has a caseload of about 15% of our student body, and then there's 4 other school counselors that oversee the remaining percentage of our student body. They each have about a 22 to 24% caseload of our student body, and so we have a total of 5 counselors at the high school.
Okay, thank you. And I just also want to clarify that the position that you're asking for, the addition of the MML team leader teacher is, this is an open position, so this is just a lateral position. This is not an extra position that we would have to be budgeting for, correct?
Correct. It's in the budget now. We're just repurposing it to the high school for the needs that we're seeing there.
Perfect. I'm going to ask you as well, what would Edward Little need from us?
So I think we're seeing a ton of support from you at the high school at this time. What's going to be needed is what comes out of our collaborative visit in the fall in terms of supporting the initiatives and the goals that come out of that visit. That's hard in terms of this particular budget season, but that's really our eye on the prize is that. And I think if I had to guess, that's really going to be PD support in terms of instructional culture. That's what I foresee as the vision for EL, and that's our next step in terms of what the staff has voiced and what the administration has voiced in terms of our next step to improve Edward Little. So I would say continued support in the realm of professional development.
Okay. And you talked about the accreditation and how much this is going to cost and all that. It's a cost that we need to spend because we need to be accredited. So it's just something that we are going to need to spend, whether it's $5,000 or $20,000. It's something that we are going to need, correct?
Correct. And we've been doing that for many, many years in Auburn, and so it's just a continued piece that we finance for.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, so if anybody in the community, you know, that they understand that this is something that we need, and as you said, it's been something that we've required before. Thank you. I think we've completed our cost 1.
We have completed
Perfect.
Cost Center 1.
Cost Center 1. Thank you, everybody. Again, I will reiterate, the work that goes into this is much appreciated. It helps with the transparency of the budget. It helps with the flow of the budget, makes us understand a little bit better what you require from us. So we all appreciate all the work that you've done. Thank you. Now we're going to go into school committee student representative report. Connor?
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you about our upcoming March Madness, not next week, but the following week. This is one of the best events the school has every year, where students and staff come together to celebrate the winter season with fun activities, games, and competitions. It's a time to show school spirit, make lasting memories, and have friendly competition. On the TV, you'll see a schedule of events and dress-up days for the week. Edward Little High School was delighted to host Special Olympics this year. Special Olympics is not just about the competition, but rather inclusion and community. Edward Little High School is grateful to be a part of this impactful and amazing community. On the TVs, you'll see photos of Student Leadership Council, NHS, and the Green Ladle all volunteering. This is one of the best events that happens at EL. There is so much joy, skill, friendships, and smiles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have fun on your week of activities.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to superintendent's report.
I have no report tonight.
Okay, awesome. School committee chairperson's report. Since I am the ad hoc chairperson, I have no report. City council update, Adam.
Thanks. Just a brief update on upcoming meetings. Just a reminder that the city council's budget process will begin on March 17th. So the city council does not have anything next Monday on the 10th. The 17th is the budget presentation and budget workshop. On the 24th, we'll continue. The 31st, we will continue. And sprinkled throughout, there will actually be 2 budget town hall meetings open to the public. The first is on March 27th at 6 p.m. Here in the community room, town hall. And then on the 29th, which I actually think is a Saturday, and that's at 2 p.m. at the Auburn Public Library. So that's all.
Thank you. So we have committee reports. The only one, we had a curriculum subcommittee meeting today, but all we have is the agenda, so we'll have something about that next week. Not next week, next meeting. Well, that is next week. Oh my gosh, that's right. Oops. That's right, it's March Madness here. Also, we have a facilities subcommittee minutes. Pat, would you like to talk on that?
Push this button all the time. It's very aggravating. We met last, the 27th, which was my birthday. They had a meeting for me. It was very nice.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. We met at Edward Little High School in that wonderful second floor conference room, which is a really nice place to meet, I think. Scott introduced, the new business was just discussing the purpose of the committee and what our charge is going to be. We reviewed the Facilities Advisory Committee recommendations, and a lot of those things have been addressed. I don't know if we need to go over those. One of the things that I liked the most was somebody mentioned the 6th grade at the middle school, and we talked about developing its own subcommittee from our committee. So I really appreciated that. Also, the architect of engineer, the RFPs are out for March 6th, so hopefully we'll have that person on board pretty quickly. I think that's pretty much what we did. Oh, I know, the other one was the, they've sent information and they've met with people from the DOE so that our construction applications, they've put in for all of the 6 elementary schools and the middle school to see how we place on the list. It's what we had to do for the new Edward High School. We did it at least twice. They rank the schools, their needs, as opposed to all the other schools in the state that have needs. So we're anxiously going to wait to see if we even get high enough on the list for them to assist our plans. This is an ongoing process. It's going to take a while. When you talked about the middle school, I don't think we even know when that's going to happen. It would be nice if it happened yesterday, but we'll have to see where we go from here.
Great, thank you. And if anybody would like to read the complete minutes, it's on our agenda on the website. We have no old business and no new business. Our upcoming meetings are March 12th we have a finance subcommittee meeting. We also have a school committee budget meeting. On March 18th, we have a policy subcommittee meeting, and the 19th and the 26th, we will have our school committee budget meetings. So we'll be seeing lots of each other this month. Any future agenda items or requests for information? I know that Quinn, you had asked for more info on the restorative behavioral response interventions, so we'll put that in there. Anybody else? No? All right, so I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right, that would be Pat and Corin. Oh my gosh, I forgot what to say. Motion, do we all agree? Yes. Meeting adjourned.